Yes, the Chevelle, the Camaro, the Corvette, the holy trinity of GM muscle, loud, fast, about as subtle as a chainsaw in the library. But hiding in the shadows of all that tire smoke and testosterone was something else. Something that didn't shout, it growled. It was the Monte Carlo SS 454. A car so underrated, so overlooked, that even Chevrolet seems to have forgotten it existed. It's the muscle car for the man who wanted torque but also walnut trim. The drag strip sleeper that wore a tie to work. A rare bargain you're sleeping on. Here's its story. Act 1. Birth of a bruiser in a tuxedo. The late 1960s and early 70s were prime time for General Motors muscle. If you opened up a GM catalog, it had more bangers than the menu at a Pakistani restaurant. The aforementioned Chevrolet, Chevelle, and Camaro stole the show. They took center stage in the world of muscle cars, leaving other high-performance contenders hidden behind the curtain. But Chevy had their thinking cap on and came up with another great idea. They decided to take the brutal power of a Chevelle SS and stuff it inside something that looked more respectable. A car that packed Chevelle SS power, but delivered it in a more refined, luxurious package. Enter the Monte Carlo SS 454, a land yacht with the heart of a linebacker. It was aimed at the Pontiac Grand Prix, the Ford Thunderbird, the Buick Riviera, and your uncle who wore gold chains but still watched the 6 o'clock news. It wasn't just about power, it was about presence. So why don't we hear about this car today? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you might just want to hunt one down. Act 2. The Thunderbird made me do it. In 1958, Ford turned the Thunderbird from a 2-seat sports car into a 4-seat yacht. They ended up printing a lot of money, and GM panicked. Meetings were held, cigar smoke filled the air, and someone said, "What if Chevelle?" But longer. So they decided to build their own personal luxury coupe. And thus, the Monte Carlo was born. Fun fact, it was nearly called the Chevrolet Concourse, which sounds more like an airport terminal than a muscle car. By 1970, John DeLorean had taken over. Yes, that John DeLorean. The man who made the GTO famous, created the Back to the Future car, got caught selling $24 million worth of coke, too many achievements to count. With him in charge, Chevy marketed the Monte Carlo as a blend of style, muscle, and value. It came with a bonnet so long that it could put your geography teacher's Volvo to shame. The chrome on it was thick enough to stop a bullet. A V8 engine came as standard because no poverty spec 6-cylinder engines were good enough. But Chevy knew that brute force alone wouldn't sell this car. It had to be refined, controlled, and tailored for a different kind of buyer. They created the SS 454 package, the ultimate blend of muscle and class. Act 3. SS 454 package, business class muscle. For just $420, which is about 2 Big Macs, a gas station hot dog, and a Bud Light today, you could add the SS 454 package. In simple words, it transformed the Monte Carlo into a bicep in a velvet suit. This was courtesy of a 454 cubic inch LS5 V8 rated at 360 horsepower, rumored to be closer to 400 horses. Other niceties included a turbo hydromatic 400 transmission, an F41 performance suspension, power disc brakes up front, and 15 by 7 inch wheels. You also got the G67 automatic leveling system, which used witchcraft to maintain a balanced ride. They also gave you a 12-bolt rear axle, standard with a 3.31 final drive, though a 2.56 highway gear was an option in 1970. All of it was complemented well by subtle SS badging. This wasn't a flashy muscle car anymore, but a bruiser in disguise, a sleeper if you must. If you're into deep dives like this, there's plenty more coming your way. Consider subscribing so you don't miss the next forgotten classic. But like all great personalities throughout history, Alexander, Caesar, Napoleon, John Cena, the Monte Carlo is also surrounded by controversy and urban legends. Act 4. performance myths and legends. Myth number 1, the 4-speed manual SS 454. Sounds amazing, never happened though. Enthusiasts claim some Monte Carlos left the factory with a manual transmission, but no documented proof has ever surfaced. Chevy sales literature briefly hinted at a 4-speed option, but no factory invoices have been found till date. Would a manual SS 454 Monte have been a game changer? Maybe. But once you remove that tinfoil hat, reality suggests every single one left the dealership with an automatic. Myth number 2, the LS6 Monte Carlo SS. The LS6 was fitted to the Chevelle SS and was the nuclear option, making 450 horsepower. It's the engine equivalent to a sledgehammer made of fire. Some say that a handful of Monte Carlos were secretly fitted with LS6 engines at the factory, but again, there's not a shred of proof for this. If an L6 Monte Carlo SS ever rolled off the production line, it would have been a true monster. Just imagine a personal luxury car with more horsepower than a Corvette. Unfortunately, greatness doesn't always translate to success. The Monte Carlo SS 454 had the right ingredients, but somehow it still got left behind. Why? Act 5. Death by disinterest. Chevy sold 3,823 in 1970, and in 1971, that number dropped to just 1,919. Why? Maybe it was too subtle for its own good, like a bouncer who also reads poetry. Or maybe buyers still preferred the Chevelle SS, as it was the complete opposite, a screaming madman at the gym, juiced to the gills. Like many of the cars we've covered, including the Saab Sonnet, the 1970s were really bad for cars in America. Chevy had to drop the compression ratio in 1971, reducing power output just as emissions laws tightened. The SS package was canceled soon after, and by 1972, the Monte Carlo had become a skinny aristocrat instead of a muscular one. Act 6. Legacy and value today. In total, fewer than 6,000 Monte Carlo SS 454s were built, making them rarer than many legendary muscle cars. However, you can still find one for half the price of a Chevelle SS in similar condition. A clean Chevelle SS 454 LS5, about $118,000. A mint Monte Carlo SS 454, around $53,000. That's nearly 60 grand less for the same power, a better ride, and enough chrome to blind a satellite. It's comfortable, it's menacing, it's the thinking man's muscle car. It's a beast in a business suit. It's hard to describe this misunderstood masterpiece. A muscle car in loafers, a heavyweight boxer in a tuxedo, a chrome-plated cruise missile. The list goes on. It would be acceptable to say that it had the firepower of a Chevelle, but was wrapped in enough chrome and fake wood to make it acceptable at a country club. But one thing is for sure, it never caught on. Maybe it whispered muscle when the world wanted to be screamed at. Maybe it was too refined for the burnout brigade, and too loud for the luxury crowd. Or maybe, just maybe, it was ahead of its time. Today, it's one of the rarest bruisers GM ever made, and the market still hasn't realized how it is a cheaper, comfier, and posher version of the Chevelle. It sits quietly, lurking in the shadows. Thanks for watching. Until next time, see you on the road.